G'day guys, welcome back to True Eagle. I thought today I'd take the opportunity to cover off a few of the trade stories. I really wanted to be red hot on this and comment like immediately as it happened, but there's so much other stuff in the world happening at the moment. I just did a half an hour video on Christian Petrarca, and that just threw a massive spanner in the works. So today I'm going to summarize a little bit about what's happening at West Coast in terms of trade requests. There's at least two that affect us and a few other players that have popped up as being potential players of interest for us, I reckon. So in case you missed it, I did release a season review yesterday. I think by the time you're watching this, I'll take a bit of time to talk about season 2024 as a whole and some opportunities for us to improve. So if you haven't seen that, by all means check that out. Also couldn't help but notice that more than half the people that have watched a True Eagle video in the last 28 days haven't actually hit subscribe. So if you could do me a favor and help me grow this Eagles channel, I'd love this to become something really significant someday. So if you could hit subscribe, that'd be much appreciated. All right, let's first of all talk about Tom Barrass. We now have an official trade request from Barrass, and he has nominated Hawthorn. So we all saw that coming to some extent. Perhaps there was a little bit of belief out there or hope from Eagles fans that this story wasn't quite true. And I've seen a little bit of commentary around it from fans suggesting that Barrass is, being disloyal or anything like that. Like I said, just to summarize my thoughts, I think, 6 months ago or 3 months ago even, Barrass said, I'm a West Coast player. Unless the rug gets pulled out from under me, I'm going to stay that way. Well, I think the read is it's actually West Coast that have kind of driven this. Maybe not driven it as such, but gave Barrass plenty of reasons to look elsewhere by not extending his contract, by not giving him a pay rise that they'd previously, verbally agreed to, apparently. So I've said before, I just really hope we're dealing with this amicably. I have seen a little bit of rumor, nowhere reported officially, but there has been a suggestion that, the relationship has frayed at the moment, and we saw that, Barrass didn't play for the entire last month of the season. I think his final game was that Western Derby, had a bit of a mystery injury after that concussion. So who knows what to read into that. It is entirely possible that West Coast handled this well, handled this correctly, and it was still taken badly in terms of feedback from Barrass. I don't know how to speculate. I think Barrass wants to stay or wanted to stay, and his hand has been somewhat forced, and he's got a better deal at Hawthorn, and we are going to pursue the draft compensation avenue. That was a weird way to phrase it. Anyway, so it's official now. He's had his exit meeting. He's requested a trade. We've made a statement here. I think it's Gavin Bell says, while the club respects Tom's request, he is contracted for another 3 seasons and our vice captain. We'll endeavour to meet Tom's request while protecting the best interests of the West Coast Eagles. So I think this is a stock standard response of we don't want to let Barrass go, but I think everyone knows that West Coast is quite open to this potential trade. Naturally, the reason they don't phrase it as, oh, we're happy to see this deal happen, is so that they don't lose negotiating power at the trade table. So it's also been reported that the Hawks' first-round pick is expected to be the centerpiece of the deal, with Barrass reportedly to sign a 4-year deal with a trigger for a 5th season. So yeah, first-round pick being the centerpiece certainly implies that there'll be more. I would think so. How much more is unclear. I think we do have to watch. Hawthorn's first pick is a moving target this final series. Who knows how deep they get? I did my my finals prediction on True Footy, and I had them making a prelim. If they get to the prelim, that pick becomes pick 15, and that could dilute further with compensation picks and stuff like that. So that will have an impact. It's nominally pick 12 right now. It could become pick 18 on draft night, or at least pick 15 if you take away academy picks as well. So if it becomes a later pick, then perhaps we get something else like a future second or pick 30 along with it. I'm not too sure, but I'm going to be fairly confident in saying that no matter where Hawthorn's pick lands, even if it is pick 12 as it currently is, I'm going to imagine that's not going to be enough on its own. So we can hope to achieve something else out of that as well. In other news that affects us, Liam Baker has officially requested a trade from Richmond to Western Australia. So it's a little bit interesting that he has nominated the state and not the club. This is usually, this is not the standard practice. Normally a player will request a club outright. We did see Alex Neil-Bullen recently request a trade to South Australia, and that has now been narrowed to Adelaide. So I'm not too sure how to read this one. We know that Shea Bolton has requested a trade to Fremantle, so we're out of that race. Not that I think we were ever going to be realistically in it, but Liam Baker has left it more open-ended. So there's 2 outcomes here that are possible. Liam Baker is still negotiating and will decide on West Coast or Fremantle, or alternatively, he's letting Richmond deal with both clubs and seeing what a deal is best for Richmond, and he will go to that club. Now, I don't think I've ever seen a player do that, but it is entirely possible. If Liam Baker honestly doesn't mind who he plays for next year, both have pros and cons. Going to Fremantle would mean he's probably going to play finals a lot sooner, but going to West Coast, I think, I don't know financially if we're offering more, but he did used to go for a passionate West Coast fan growing up, so there's the romantic element there. So not too sure what to make of that. In terms of what we have to give up, I have said pretty much all year that I think a late first round pick between 15 and 20 is right. But now we're in a situation where we have one hand on Hawthorn's first round pick, which is currently 12 and could become 15 or 16. I find myself unwilling to give that up for Liam Baker. I don't know what the psychology is around that. Now that we almost have the asset to give up, I'm making a different value assessment of it. And also, I've had gains over the last few months, a more intimate knowledge of the strength of this year's draft. And I think a top 20 pick is absolutely something that we should be prioritizing. And I'm sure Richmond will be feeling the same way. So for me, I think it's a value toss-up between pick 16 or whatever it is and Liam Baker. And I certainly don't want to just flip Tom Barrass for Liam Baker. I think that is a bad deal on our end. Even if he is a few years younger, he is, he's not key position for a start. He's not contracted. I think that would be a poor deal from our point of view. So where I currently sit is if Richmond are willing to take pick 23, then I would do the deal. But if it involves Hawthorn's first round pick, I think we need to keep that pick. Don't get me wrong, we do need players between 23 and 28. We do need players that drive standards and are courageous, and Liam Baker has leadership, and I think all those boxes are ticked. But it's not as though we don't have other experience on the list to be in the position where we need to give up a top 20 draft pick for Liam Baker. Now, this is different to saying what his actual value is as a player. I realize 23 is going to be a little bit low on the quality of Liam Baker. I am merely saying this is what I'd be willing to give up to get Liam Baker. I think we need to hold our top 20 picks as sacrosanct. And 23 is probably tipping over the threshold of, okay, now I see the value in getting Liam Baker and we have 2 top 20 picks. So I think he'd be nice to have for pick 23. If he ends up going to Fremantle, I must say I'll live with it. I suppose we can talk about Jack Graham as well. So previously it was reported that he was set to sign with West Coast. Then I think Riley Beveridge on Gettable said that is not the case. It's more or less 50-50, still considering staying at Richmond. If Richmond lose all these other players, which appears to be the case, maybe they improve an offer for Jack Graham. Maybe they can talk him into staying. But it does seem to be between Richmond and West Coast at the moment. I remember commenting on this earlier in the year. I was in America at the time, so it must have been like April. And I think I made some points that I thought I saw the value in a Jack Graham free agency move, and I have really switched my position on that. Again, fits the age bracket, and again, unlike Liam Baker, it doesn't cost anything, so I think there's reasons to make this work, but I consider just how many players are probably going to be vying for a similar position to Jack Graham in our team next year. Since the story was first reported, we got Jack Hutchinson, who is a forward midfielder, very much, not the very same sort of player, but I think more or less going to be competing for a similar position, right? So then you've got Tyrell Dewar, who had a great end of the year, and I think hopefully is going to feature early for us next year. Noah Long's got to come back into this team. I'm sure Graham adds some attributes that we don't have, but I think for the position he plays as a forward midfielder rotation, it no longer feels tempting to me to add this guy to our list. I think with the amount of experience we still have on the list, we can continue to cycle through those veterans. We're going to see, at least one retirement this year with Andrew Gaff, Tom Barrass leaves, but we still have a number of veterans and experienced players around that makes going for Jack Graham right at this current point in time a little bit pointless. I know we have that gap in our list, but maybe we just focus on giving the list spots and the best 22 spots to the youth, and then a few years or even 12 months from now, we reassess what that 23 to 28 bracket looks like. So I've gone real cold on the Jack Graham thing. Is there a potential situation where we see him as being our 4th midfielder? Because I said this in my season review, we have Yo, Kelly and Reid, and there is a complete absence of a 4th midfielder there. When you look at the centre bounce attendances, Ruben Jinby was the 4th most regular midfielder last year, and he got moved to the back line. We have Elijah Hewitt to come back in. We've seen Hutchinson play really well in that role in the last game of the year. We also have pick 3 to add. So, he would add depth considering Yo, Kelly and Reid played most games this year. And there is a possibility, if one of them goes out next year for an extended period of time, we are left overexposed. He could be a midfield rotation. He's a good defensive midfielder. On the other hand, he's also not that good. He's decent. He's not that consistent. He's not a consistent ball winner. Good tackler. I think the desire to go for Jack Graham at the moment for me is diminishing. Just some other points around players that we've either been linked to or that I think would be nice gets. So James Peatling, again, we've been linked to him in a loose sense, named as one of 3 teams with I think it's the Melbourne Football Club and St Kilda. All I'll pass on is that Collingwood has now entered that race, and I think it's going to be increasingly tough to get a player from Sydney playing for GWS to move all the way to Perth, considering the position we're in. So that's just a bit of an update on that, although I think it would be nice to get a James Peatling for sure. Ivan Soldo, this story has broken pretty recently. He got traded from Richmond to Port Adelaide, played the first 5 or 6 games, and was getting a lot of hit-outs and generally playing well. I think there was an injury and then maybe a drop in form. He has now been usurped by Jordan Sweet. And now there's talk that he's potentially looking elsewhere and regretting his move to Port Adelaide. I tell you what, I did say that in the trade period. I swear I said it last year. It's like, why would you recruit 2 rucks that are going to compete for the same spot? And invariably, one of them is going to get pissed off that they missed out. And sure enough, Ivan Soldo could do a Brodie Grundy and leave his new club after 1 season. I think this is something that we should consider. Going for Ivan Soldo and genuinely upgrading our ruck situation. I think it's diabolical at the moment. Bailey Williams had a down year, haven't given up on him, but a down year nonetheless, and we are by far the worst team in the competition for ruck influence, right? Matthew Flynn didn't have a great year. Obviously injured for a lot of it, but came back and kind of breaking even in the ruck. And Harry Barnett, I don't want to draw attention to a young guy, struggling, but he had a horrendous season statistically. So I think there's an argument to be made for Ivan Soldo coming in if it's real cheap and improving our best 22. So we'll see what happens there. Again, we're not linked to him in any way. It's just an idea. Soldo to West Coast, I think given his age, cost and pedigree, this one I'd be happy to see us pursue. Right before recording this, Cozzy Pickett is rumoured to be homesick. The reason I put that in quotation marks is because I'm not really sure what homesick means. The article I found suggested he wants to move home to support networks, expecting the birth of his first child. But I don't know where Cozzy Pickett's really from. Like, he was drafted out of South Australia, got links to Western Australia, been linked to trades to both states previously. It may be South Australia. It may be South Australia that he wants to go back to, if that story is even true. It certainly has been reported. But if he is open to moving to Western Australia, do we consider this? This is a tricky one for me. I think it's tempting. I think Fremantle could have their hands full with Bolton, and it could open the door for us to have a sniff here. There's pros and cons to it. The cons are very obviously going to be the cost, and with pick 3, I don't think he should cost pick 3 outright, but it would probably involve some sort of trade down from pick 3. So let's say it removes access to that early part of the draft. That is a big blow, and I do think we need to focus our resources on getting the best midfielder we can at the moment. On the other hand, he is only 23, right in the age bracket, and would be one of the best and most talented players on our list. Certainly, at least, outside of the guys who are at the end of their careers playing well, like McGovern and stuff like that. I think Cozzy Pickett is an absolute star and would be around for a long time. Probably, as I say it's probably not completely right for us, and I think we should probably hold on to pick 3, but the fact that he's only 23 and as good as he is makes me at least think about it. So I just want to hear from you what you think about this. I would totally understand if you think hold pick 3. It certainly wouldn't cost much cheaper than that. I don't think Melbourne would give him up for whatever we get for Tom Barrass, for instance. But just something to keep an eye on. Perhaps it would be great to see him in West Coast colours, even if I really do want to take pick 3 to the draft. But anyway, that's a summary of what's going on at the moment, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.